What if I told you that there are over 200 dead bodies on Mount Everest, and they're still there, right now? Frozen in time. Some with their eyes still open, staring into the void. Some reaching out as if begging for help that will never come. Mount Everest, the roof of the world. A place where human ambition meets the absolute limits of survival. This is a story about what happens when we push too far, when we ignore the warnings, when we become so obsessed with reaching the top that we forget we also need to make it back down. Today, we're diving into the deadly secrets of Everest, the bodies that became landmarks, the haunting last words of doomed climbers, and the dark truth about what really kills people up there. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change how you see this mountain forever. Chapter 1. The Death Zone, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Above 26,000 feet, you enter what climbers call the Death Zone. And it's called that for a very simple, terrifying reason. Your body starts dying. At this altitude, there's only 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. Your brain swells. Your lungs fill with fluid. Every step feels like you're walking through concrete. Every breath is a battle. But here's the thing that haunts me. People know this. 1 in every 50 climbers who attempt Everest dies trying. In 1996, 8 people died in a single storm. In 2015, another avalanche triggered by the Nepal earthquake killed 19 more. The mountain doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your preparation. It doesn't care that you have a family waiting for you at home. Chapter 2. Green Boots, 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Sound of wind intensifies. There's a body on Everest that almost every climber passes on their way to the summit. They call him Green Boots. His real name was Tsuin Palger, a 28-year-old Indian climber who died during that catastrophic 1996 season. He's curled up in a small limestone cave at 27,890 feet, his legs pulled to his chest, his bright green mountaineering boots pointing toward the trail. For over 2 decades, climbers have used his body as a landmark, a checkpoint on the way to glory. Imagine being so close to achieving your dream that you have to step over a frozen corpse to get there. Imagine looking into that cave and seeing his face, perfectly preserved by the cold, his body a reminder of what happens when things go wrong. One woman said she made eye contact with his frozen face and couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching her, that he was warning her. Turn back, it's not worth it. They take their photos, they say a small prayer, and they keep climbing. In 2014, Green Boots disappeared. Some say his body was moved off the trail by Sherpas who felt it was disrespectful to use a human being as a trail marker. Others believe the body was simply covered by shifting ice, but for years, he was there. A silent guardian, a frozen warning that nobody heeded. Tsuin Palger had a mother who waited for him to come home. He had friends who remembered his laugh. He had dreams that extended beyond that mountain. But on Everest, he became just another landmark. Chapter 3. The Rainbow Valley, 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Now, let me tell you about a place so disturbing that experienced climbers refuse to talk about it in detail. They call it Rainbow Valley. But Rainbow Valley is located on the northern router of Everest, and it gets its name from the brightly colored jackets and gear of dozens of dead climbers whose bodies lie scattered across the slope. These aren't peaceful deaths. These are people who died slowly, freezing to death, running out of oxygen, their minds deteriorating as hypothermia set in. Some of them died alone, separated from their group in a whiteout storm. Others died with teammates watching helplessly, unable to save them because attempting a rescue would mean dying themselves. There's a man named David Sharp who died in 2006, and his story haunts the climbing community to this day. David was attempting a solo summit, no Sherpa support, no supplemental oxygen. He was found alive but dying in a small cave. Over 40 climbers passed him on their way up and down the mountain. You have limited oxygen, limited strength, limited time. The mountain forces you to make impossible choices. David Sharp died in that cave, and the climbing world erupted in controversy. Were those climbers monsters for leaving him? Or were they simply human beings trying to survive in an environment that strips away everything civilized about us? One climber who passed David later said the image of his frozen, dying body appears in his nightmares. That he can still hear David's labored breathing. That he asks himself every single day if he could have done something more. This is what Everest does. Chapter 4. The Psychological Horror, 10 o'clock to 12:30. But the physical deaths aren't even the darkest part of Everest's story. It's the psychological horror that gets me. There's something called summit fever. A psychological condition where climbers become so obsessed with reaching the top that they ignore obvious danger signs. They ignore their guide's advice, they ignore their body's warnings. They ignore the weather turning deadly. All rational thought disappears, replaced by a single consuming need. I must reach the summit. In 1996, a climber named Beck Weathers was left for dead twice. His team, believing he was dead, left him and radioed down to his wife that he hadn't made it. He somehow regained consciousness and stumbled back into camp, his face completely frozen, his hands destroyed by frostbite. He looked like something from a horror movie, his face black and swollen, ice crystals embedded in his skin. And he said something chilling afterward. On that mountain, I learned that life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. But I also learned that some moments shouldn't take our breath away. Some mountains shouldn't be climbed. Then there are the hallucinations. At extreme altitude, with oxygen-starved brains, climbers report seeing things that aren't there. Some see companions climbing beside them, only to realize they're completely alone. Is it just the altitude? Chapter 5. The Sherpas' Secrets, 12:30 to 14 o'clock. The Sherpas, the local people who guide climbers and carry equipment, they have stories about Everest that Westerners rarely hear. They call the mountain Chamolungma, Mother Goddess of the world, and they believe she's alive, that she judges those who climb her. The Sherpas perform rituals before every climbing season, asking the mountain for permission to climb. They leave offerings, they burn juniper, they pray for safe passage. And they'll tell you, if you ask, that the mountain speaks to them. Another said that on particularly clear nights, you can see the ghosts of dead climbers moving along the trails, still trying to reach the top or find their way down. But here was the darkest secret. The climbing industry that funds Nepal's economy often treats Sherpas as expendable. They carry the heaviest loads, fix the ropes, break the trail all for a fraction of what Western guides earn. 16 Sherpas died in 2014. The world mourned for a moment and moved on. But in Nepal, 16 families lost fathers, brothers, sons. Closing 14 o'clock to 15 o'clock. So what is it about Mount Everest that makes us willing to risk everything? Why do we continue to climb a mountain that's killed over 300 people? Maybe it's because Everest represents something primal in us, the need to conquer, to push boundaries, to prove we're capable of the impossible. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe we climb because the mountain is there, and we can't resist the challenge. I think Everest exposes what we really are when everything else is stripped away. When you're dying, when you're terrified, when helping someone else might kill you, do you become a hero? Or do you keep walking? The bodies on Everest aren't just victims of altitude and cold. They're mirrors. Green Boots is still up there somewhere. Rainbow Valley still glows with the colors of ambition turned to tragedy. And next season, hundreds more climbers will attempt the summit, stepping over the dead to achieve their dreams. Engagement outro 15 o'clock to 15:30. Now I want to hear from you. If you were on Everest and came across someone dying, but saving them might mean you'd never make it back alive, what would you do? Or would you keep climbing? There's no right answer, only the truth of what you do when everything is on the line. And if this story left you thinking, if it gave you chills, if you watched until the end, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We dive into humanity's darkest stories every week, and I promise you won't want to miss what's coming next. The mountain remembers everyone who climbs it. Make sure you remember to subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember some secrets are buried in ice for a reason.